our fifth grade teachers, myself as not a fifth grade teacher in the classroom, but maybe in gym, and then our pre-service teachers. But it has definitely been a learning experience. Here's our team. So we have 3 learning practices that we chose, and our 3 are valuing evidence, building strong content knowledge, and persevering in problem solving. In our lesson study, we did not do all of them, but we're going to talk about each one, what maybe some of the indicators were of each one, and then some examples, and we're going to go with those.
So our first was valuing evidence, which you can't see at the top, but that is our title, valuing evidence. And these are some student performance indicators that we were looking for in order to make this measurable. So making models, using text-based evidence, I hope that's not my phone going off there, explaining their thinking with reasoning, testing a hypothesis and gathering data, researching using credible sources. And that one in particular, I know for sure in Danny's class, I experienced a lesson where we talked about primary sources versus secondary, and we worked with that. And then measured by student work samples. So those are some indicators that we used.
So here's an example of one. Testing a hypothesis.
So the first one was like in science where we were learning about convection currents, and I think we had the 2 colored bottles and they had to guess. It started out with 1 blue, 1 yellow, and the convection current, the change in temperature causes the colors to mix, but the kids don't know what they're looking at, so they had to choose a question, and they thought possibly it was temperature, so then we would test it out. The second one is just gathering data on our math model that we did for the best cookie and looking at it, evaluating that.
So this is an example of using text-based evidence for social studies and reading. We are doing a early colonization simulation in our class where the kids are in teams and they had to pack a cargo ship and cross the Atlantic Ocean and establish a colony in one of the original 13 colonies. And they came up with all the supplies in their groups, and then we went back and they read accounts of actual early colonization and some of the hardships that the early settlers faced. And then they compared what they found in the article to what they actually did in their cargo, and then they went back based on the information they got from the article and changed their cargo list so that they would be more successful in their simulation based on the evidence that they got from the actual experiences of settlers in the 1600s. So we have a couple videos, and these are 2 students talking about the evidence that they found in the article and how they used that information to go back and change their cargo supply list so they can be more successful. So that's what the 2 videos.
Volume microphone. Is there a microphone?
Renee's giving it.
Renee's getting it right now.
Oh, great. Let's try it. Actually, let me. Not gonna work.
Here it comes.
Do you want some on it? That would be awesome. Thank you. I don't know if you should not. Oh, we did? Of you. Doing the songs. Doing the songs. No. Yeah. Push that up.
Yeah, that's still good.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So we're good? All right.
I like this, so even though the settlers came and prepared to trade with the remaining Indians, so if the Indians tried to attack us, so we got more supplies, so if the Native Americans tried to attack us, we can try to negotiate with them and have our trader try to trade with them.
So that was just something he thought of after reading this document to change what they had done based on the evidence.
So basically, an analogy is that when they packed the original cargo list, they didn't bring any extra supplies. They brought what they thought was the bare minimum. And after reading the passage, they realized if we want to interact with Native Americans positively, maybe we should bring extra stuff that they might want, so that then if they go to attack us, we can try and appease them by giving them stuff to trade. And before you play this one, they're talking about how he was planning on, they were just going to hunt. Like they weren't going to bring a whole lot of food, they were just going to hunt because they thought that would they'd be able to get enough food to eat, and he reads in here that the actual settlers weren't able to be as successful hunters as they had planned on being, so they ended up having to eat their own livestock and domestic animals and everything they brought with them. So after reading that, they decided they were going to bring more animals, so they wouldn't have to eat their domestic animals to survive, since their hunting wasn't going to be as successful as they thought.
The settlers, when they came, they didn't have as good as hunting skills as the Indians, and they had limited meat supplies, and so then they were forced to eat their own horses and dogs and rats and poisonous snakes. So then what we did is we didn't bring enough food, and we also had to eat some of our own animals. So then this time we brought more food. So then hopefully we won't have to eat any of our animals.
It's good thinking.
Okay, so, oh, we can see it now, that's cool. So the next area that we focused on was building strong content knowledge, and see that these are some of the indicators that we looked at. So explain understanding of key concepts using book talks, number talks, and book letters. Justifying your answers. Use learned knowledge to go above and beyond class expectations, Genius Hour and Go Beyonds, and measured by student work samples as well.
So this would just be one example. In science, as we go throughout a unit, they create a presentation on Google Slides. And the last slide is an option to go beyond. So if they had a question at the beginning of something that they wanted to study further, or a topic that came up, or dig deeper into a concept that was covered in science, then they research on their own time and create a go beyond slide. So this one in science, we do volcanoes, but not necessarily super volcanoes. So, and this was something they wanted to know at the beginning and worked on throughout the unit.
Okay, our last goal that we focused on was persevering in problem solving. And this is something that I noticed specifically as a student in the classroom. There would be certain students that before we even asked them to do something, they would say, no, I don't want to do this. So we decided as a team that this would be a really good goal to focus on. So some indicators of this, supporting one another through trial and error, seeking help from peers before teachers, understanding that the process is just as important as the final product, working on developing a growth mindset, measured by teacher observation and student self-assessment, so exit slips, and then graphing amount of time spent working on a math or reading task and working through group disagreements based on thinking, reasoning, and evidence.
So this video was taken during the lesson study, but it was not a focus of the study. It was more of an evidence-based and thinking processes. But as I was sitting there videoing Jack, I heard the group behind me later on talking about how the group wasn't agreeing on what the evidence said. And so I was listening to it, so then I stood up and videoed them. So it was just a video of them explaining kind of how they persevered, not just through their own struggles, but sometimes when a group doesn't agree, how do you work through that in a positive way? So it's kind of neat to listen to it.
So we were disagreeing first, if we should up the food and tools, and we saw that by letting the person that wasn't agreeing with the rest of the group to say what their thinking was about all that, and then we all agreed on what it was, and we solved it.
And they really did. There wasn't arguing. It was really, they let this person speak and give their reasoning, and then they all came to a conclusion. So it was great.
Yeah, this is an example. This is a student at the end of working on division with two-digit divisors in math. I have them write a reflection, so the student realized that division is a lot easier than they originally thought, and realized that one little mistake of repeated subtraction can mess everything up. Something important is to use like bigger numbers, thinking of bigger factors when they're trying to working with division, but I think that was a great example of them understanding that, going through that process and what can I do differently, or what's working or not, or how can I be more efficient, was just as important as coming up with that final answer.
And then from practicum student perspective, I think at the very beginning of the PD experience, it was a little bit confusing for some of us. We didn't really know where our place was, and the teachers didn't always necessarily know where our place was. So that got a little bit confusing at first. But as we continued on in the process, I think that it's important for us as students, future teachers, to be aware of what actually goes on. And I know that this is new to you guys. This is the first time that you've ever done this. So it's good to get behind the scenes and see this is what teachers do, and lesson studies are important, and how can we improve in this? So at first, it's interesting to see the spectrum from the beginning to the end. I don't know if you have anything to add to that too. So that's that.
And then just the end. This is a great process. It was a little confusing at the beginning, but I think that overall as a group, we really came together. There was one day where the 5th grade teachers were gone, and we got a lot of stuff done. And so we kind of had to fill shoes where we weren't quite comfortable with, but we kind of rolled with it. Working in the classroom, like what we would think that should happen, and they didn't change anything that we wrote. So either they were really nice, or we did a good job. And then just teamwork. I know with the different dynamics of the group, it was a little different with even myself in the health enhancement. I don't quite think in the same way, but these same practices apply to me. So we weren't working exactly with what I was doing in my own area. I learned from it, but I also had to be a contributing person in this team, as well as all of us. Otherwise, if one person's kind of a weak link, it's interesting to see how that all works out and how. And then really the soft skills for the students is one of the biggest, because if they don't have the soft skills, especially perseverance, that it's going to be hard, but keep going. So just always kind of integrating those into the lessons is important. So any questions?
Did you guys have time to observe each other and then critique and feedback and change stuff? Did you guys do similar lessons, or how did you guys do the studying each other and then changing your instruction?
We didn't get all the way through the actual lesson study part because we ran out of time. And we had a long discussion about that because Stacia teaches math and science, and I teach language arts and social studies, so it wouldn't have worked with us teaching the same lesson in 2 different blocks. But we did talk about how, we had a conversation a long time about how things change, like in my block or her block. So we do something in the morning, and on a daily basis we're evaluating, okay, this didn't work in the morning block, we need to change something in the afternoon block because it wasn't effective. And that's part of, and we've had talked about that in the last couple of years too, and that's part of the reason why our block schedule changes every day, so that we don't always have my kids in the morning, her kids in the afternoon, or her kids in the morning, my kids in the afternoon, because we do realize that
Sometimes
we always recognize that things don't work the way you want them to, or it took too long to do certain things, but we didn't get to that part in our lesson study ourselves.
But we can focus on the same skills across the different content areas.
Right, with that perseverance we saw.
Mhm.
And with our time that we had, we decided what we could get done was Danny had taught the lesson for his colony, and then went back, and so I was in there videoing. Those were just clips out of the video, so we were able to watch the video, but it was a reteach integrating the practices, and they really, they clicked, yeah.